All right. So, a very good morning to everyone. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the 16th edition of the India Digital Summit, Supercharging Startups, organized by the Internet and Mobile Association of India. The summit is supported by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and Niti Aayog. I'm your host for the session, Yash from IMAI. Welcome to the panel discussion. Performance marketing is the best for the industry yet to come. We would like to thank our digital financial management partner EaseBuzz, conversational messaging partner Gupshup, session marketing partner GoQuick, gold partners Manorama Online, Blink Digital, and Yellow.ai, and silver partner ShareChat. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Navin Madhavan, our moderator, VP and GM Growth Marketing Platforms InMobi. Please also welcome Ms. Aditi Mahale, Head Marketing Big Bazaar Future Retail, Mr. Saurabh Saini, Head Digital Marketing and Communication Havells India, Mr. Yogin Vora, Associate Director Digital Marketing Z5 Global. I would request all the delegates to keep posting their questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a select few at the end of the session. Over to you, Mr. Madhavan.
Thank you, Yash. Good morning, everyone. Um, I'm Navin Madhavan. I lead InMobi's growth marketing platforms. I've had the opportunity to be at InMobi for almost 8 years now and enjoyed the journey watching the Indian startup ecosystem get to where we are today. I'm truly excited to be at India Digital Summit by IAMI, and I think it's really a great start to the year with a fantastic set of conversations and panels lined up by the organizers. Today, too, we have a very interesting panel to discuss whether the best for performance marketing is yet to come. We have a great lineup of speakers who come from extremely diverse industry, and I think it will make for a very interesting discussion because each of them come with very different context, brands, and journey themselves. While Yash has given a brief introduction, I think it will be great to hear from them on their own journeys and what they're excited to speak about. First up, I call upon Aditi to introduce herself.
Hi, thanks Naveen, thanks Yash. Excited to be here. I head marketing at Big Bazaar. We started our online journey quite late in the day. We started our e-commerce platform last year, and while we've had digital marketing as a part of our mix for the last almost 7, 8 years or more, the thrust on it completely changes the moment you have a e-commerce platform in the mix, right? And for us, watching that whole journey closely and building our platform has been quite exciting. And performance marketing completely drives that conversation in alliance with all the other platforms. So excited to be here to share some bits of our journey over the last year and a half.
Thanks, Aditi. I'm sure there's lots to learn. Saurabh, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Naveen. Hi, everyone. So my name is Saurabh. I head entire digital marketing and communications for Havells India. I've been with the brand for almost 4.5 years. Very different categories within the brand, from consumer durable to business segment uh, per se in terms of consumers. Very traditional brand in terms of over-the-counter sale usually happens most of the times. But in last 2 years, we've been very aggressively revamped our digital strategies in terms of reaching out to B2B kind of customers and B2C kind of customers. Uh, uh, I guess we get into the more conversation parts. Would be happy to share our learnings into this panel.
Thanks, Saurabh. Yogin?
Hi, thanks Navin for having me here, and it's really pleasure for me being taking a platform with Saurabh and Aditi here. And I would like to share my experiences about. Currently, I'm working for Z5 Global at associate director. I take care of the entire digital marketing paid part as well as take care of the entire global expert except India. So for me, I've worked across life insurance in India and other advertisers before. So it will be great for me to bring both sides of the world together, and we'll be able to explain more how the digital is developed in the West is as compared to digital is developed in India. I think looking forward for this great discussion.
Thanks, Yogin. I think, like I was saying earlier, across the three different folks on the panel, we have retail stores, We have a traditional brand trying to make the journey into digital and brand building more consciously in a different fashion. And then we have an entertainment major who started making their transition to digital as well. One quick call out before we start. We were supposed to have a fourth panelist, Jahid, who couldn't make it at the last minute since he's fallen sick. But yeah, I'm sure we still have enough between us to keep you all interested and excited. With that said, maybe I'll just get started by setting some context, right? We are starting 2022 on possibly one of the biggest highs that India as an ecosystem can carry in, right? I think we've all seen the news about how there have been, I don't know, 42, 43 unicorns that were announced last year. India is the center of, the global boom interest in terms of sectors across B2C, B2B, be it consumer tech, be it fintech, be it crypto. So be it, we're there at the center, we're building new and interesting things. I don't think there is any better time to be a performance marketer in this country. Digital adoption has really been at the highest, right? According to Try, I think we are home to one of the largest online populations across the globe, especially on the smartphone front, reaching up to over 600 million or so users soon. Obviously, this has been made possible by the reducing cost of smartphones, with the increasing number of brands looking at the economy that's going mobile first to accessing the internet, cheapest data tariffs thanks to our own friends Reliance Jio, and expansive data networks that making it accessible across all parts of the country. As more and more users come online, I think for every brand, performance marketing is truly a key, and we are truly looking at some amazing growth stories right in front of our eyes. I think with that context being set, I'll possibly just start off by queuing up some questions for our panel. Um, it's obvious all performance marketers have always chased the massive high of rapid user growth. And obviously, the CFOs are putting massive pressure on them to deliver the return on investment and look beyond just the marketing spends and growth in users, but going forward, make sure that the lifetime value of customers are maximized as well. So possibly starting up with you, Aditi, first. How do you really address the challenge in terms of balancing the acquisition of new customers, right? While ensuring that you're still delivering value to them and getting the maximum ROI for your budget, especially since you mentioned that you're a brand that started late on your journey, possibly started an e-commerce app later. How did your digital marketing journey evolve, say, previously and post the e-commerce app coming in? What were the changes that you saw?
Thanks, Navin. Interesting question. I think prior to the platform, our digital journey was largely to engage the audiences and inform them. So ours is a daily business, right? I mean, we have a weekly sale. We need to drive in footfalls on a daily, weekly basis to the business. So digital was more of an information engagement platform to keep the brand relevant to a younger audience, as well as we ran a lot of online to offline engagements via couponing that we did. And that was largely what digital did, apart from the content that we created. So we create a lot of content across our platforms, whether it's fashion content, beauty content, food content, and that really drove the digital conversation for us. But now it's more about daily business, right? Now digital has become business for us once e-commerce came in. And then to your point, both acquisition as well as retention become equal halves of the game for us, because it's not just acquisition, it's also quality acquisition who will translate into business. And how do you keep churning that? How do you keep giving them a value proposition that they keep coming back for? And the one big thing that any platform really helps you with, especially owned platforms, is the data and the user behavior that you can observe, and therefore reach out with more of what the person likes, which I'm sure even Yogin's team kind of does that, saying, what the person will like. So I know what a person will buy, what their buying cycles are. So for me, then getting in the right people from the platform becomes one half of the game, but also the bigger half is also how do I keep them engaged? How do I keep them coming to my brand? And there are a plethora of players out there. So what is the value offering that we give in terms of our pricing, in terms of the kind of bundling that we give on products? that we reach out to these people and get them in. So whether it is reaching out through digital marketing platforms such as Google, Facebook, a third party, or even through our own database, whether it's emails or notifications, both of these become equally powerful tools in our arsenal.
Yeah, that's very interesting to hear, Aditi. Like, obviously, I think the journey from you trying to drive footfalls to versus you actually trying to influence a daily business and purchase decision in the digital medium, right? I think in contrast, Saurabh, possibly you've had a very different objective to drive. You are not someone who necessarily engages in the business of daily engagement. It's more about being present when the category is being called. So how do you look at the same decision in terms of marketing investment and measuring ROI?
Yep. So I think very nice question, and I really want to discuss this in detail, if time permits. But really interests me a lot. So what we have done is, as I said, the philosophy of the brand is much more deeper into your homes, right? Whatever you need within your house, from a switch which cost you 50 rupees to air conditioner which costs somewhere around 30 to 35,000 rupees, from a water purifier in your kitchen to a water heater in your bathrooms, right? What we have done and thought and within the ecosystem is a map of consumer journey, right? There are a lot of data which is there in the system, and as time passes by, we are moving ahead toward a cookieless kind of a ecosystem. This first party and third party data is going to be very important and crucial. But as I said, we are working on a proper strategy where we are thinking of changing your customers into consumers, where the entire process of engaging the consumer so that it converts into customer, so that we can convert into much more as a consumer. And you rightly put it in, there is a lifetime value of a consumer, and how those lifetime value of a consumer can multiply into different folds as the time passes by. So there might be a person who need a product at a certain point of time, but from a brand, it's very important and objective from us is to engage so that those multiplication keeps happening into the system. And it's just not only one consumer buy one product, it's one consumer buys multiple products, right? And when it's very important and critical either through your content or how you engage it, it's a different strategy, knowing the fact it should not also be looked at a consumer bad that you're throwing a lot of communication to convert them into a much more from a monetary point of view. But engaging is what I believe is going to be much more challenging to it, knowing the fact how those lifetime value get increased in the coming time.
Yeah, I think challenge for every brand, right? Getting the maximum LTV. I'm sure that's your daily or weekly marketing discussions with leadership and executives, right? So yeah, I think Yogin would possibly be a very interesting contrast when I think about what both panelists reflected, right? There is a daily business, then there is a long-term multi-product lifetime value that they are trying to drive through Havells. And then last comes in Z5, where possibly it's not daily but hourly. You're competing for the binging environment, right? So, and in terms of creating content to unique users, possibly no other industry than entertainment that can do it best. So, what are your thoughts and what are your approaches to this, Yoga?
I will say with years ago, right? And as you rightly we are, though, when you talk about international market, you have to that made multiple look at South Asian things there who are more interested to actually consume time in that thing. If you think or just start to have communication, so we have to do right. So this type or multiple for them. We have designed a way where our innovation like US degree save marketing
Yogin? Sorry, your voice is breaking up a bit. I don't know whether there is uh, anything that you can maybe change. Sorry if it's just me, I apologize.
Hear me? Uh,
Can hear you, but it's very broken. Your voice
Yeah,
was clearer a little while earlier. Right now it's very,
Properly.
yeah,
Yes.
this is much better.
I'll just
Thank you.
remove.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. So
Basically, just a moment, I will just switch off the Bluetooth.
the way we see at US and other markets, the media is more evolved there as compared to Indian market as such. We are looking CTV to be penetrating right now. There already it's been a decade. The CTV is there. So consumer, I would not say look performance marketing into silo. I would always say every brand who steps into digital, they should not look performance marketing. भाई मुझे धंधा चाहिए. We should always look at saying that okay, I want to approach a consumer centricity there. How would my consumer experience a brand across all the particular IDA model or whatever model you consider at, probably from the intent level to awareness to the final conversion. Also post that how the CRM and entire LTV part. If what Saurabh said rightly, taking your customer into consumer, it's an entire experience they have, and we are masters of experience in driving content. So brand should start all most of the brands should actually start in the way saying that okay, I will not look only performance into silo, I will look at a full funnel approach in that way. That is what we have adapted here, looking at when my first impression of a consumer looks at certain creative till the last time he actually comes into retention, and the way he gets customized content and cutting down, slicing down whatever he has to see. For us, the major churnout is how you retain the customer for a longer time. So that is where our entire struggle is all about creating multiple creative content.
Yeah, I think everybody's spoken at length possibly about how it's about mapping out the funnel well and ensuring that from the first touch point of your interaction to your retention journey, what's the customer engaging in and how do you really translate them into, loyal and retained customers. I think that's truly the success for every digital marketer or yeah, I wouldn't say performance marketer because I think today every digital marketer is expected to
Absolutely.
drive performance, right? It's no longer that big a distinction anymore. Yeah, I think moving on to the next question. I think it's kind of building into the current question that we already spoke about. Um, there is always buzzwords and excitement in terms of what's coming up, what's new, what's exciting, right? These have been maybe staying constant, maybe changing, but we've seen this come and go. Of course, the latest one being crypto and Web3. But outside of that, we've had gaming, vernacular, hyperlocal, voice. All of these are opportunities for every brand to play into what users are today resonating with the most, right? And I think some of this has been consistent. It's been a trend for 3+ years now, and it's always remained a trend. And it's interesting to see how each of you are looking at this and what is already a part of your arsenal, and if not, what is going to become a part of your strategy in the coming year. Um, you know, as someone who's seen a lot of this happen in your brand specifically, be it vernacular or rural specific campaigns, I'll possibly post a question to you first, Saurabh. If you could just get started to set us off on this.
Thanks, Naveen, again. We've been, into multiple discussions where we have seen it's not India, it's Bharat, right? And now this is actually happening. So Bharat is very diversified, right? Within those 3,000 kilometers, 3,500 kilometers, every 200, 300 kilometer, you find a different perception of consuming things, right? Different language, different thought process. People perceive things very different, right? The way people perceive things in the southern part of the country, it's very different from the western part of the country, right? I think this is actually the time right now where people are actually thinking in terms of what consumer wants, how they really want those communications in their regional or in vernacular that way. What I've seen, most of the times, either it's, I respect Yogin and Aditi. Sitting in Bombay, you might think in a way that this is how entire rest of the country perceive things, right? Same with us, right? We sitting in the northern part of the country thinks that okay, Hindi is everywhere, but no, this is this is not how we think. But it's very important and critical when we closely work with the regional teams, right? And it's very mandatory you go to the market. I understand that in last 2 years we have been not able to interact with the market consumer, how they feel. But whenever get a chance, if you visit different markets, it's a different way of perceiving things, uh, and you can feel it like a consumer needs this thing very differently than the other market, and you as a marketer need to establish those communication, how you want those prospective consumers to be converted into a sale, right? How people think. So entire, as I said in previous discussion, is there is a consumer journey map, right? One is from the brand per se to the country. One is very specifically for a region, right? How you communicate to a Caroline might be very different to communication having a nearby state, Tamil Nadu, right? So very important, very critical, and how to engage them in multiple times, right? So I think that's how for us is very important. Second is, as I said, hyper local, right? Different brand have different objective again. Very tough, and it's been done, tested by multiple brands. Is how you can have more footfalls coming in your brand store, right? How you can do more, much more hyper local to have people know about the brand. As you can rightly said in European part, right? It's been really adaptive. People know about the brand, engage it, and have those footfall coming on the store so that they at least first see how the brand look like. Maybe for Aditi it might be a different case, but for us it is the experience to the brand. Just not it's about the sale, but come experience the brand, and if you feel that you really want to interact with the brand, go and do that. So we've been very focusedly working on those things, Navi.
Yeah, great. Thanks. After everything you said, I can't not bring in Aditi into the conversation because there is Bharat and India, there is the notion of hyperlocal, and there is, of course, driving footfall, right? And I don't think there is any brand in India that sort of can speak as diversely on this as Future or Big Bazaar. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
Aditi, over to you.
Yeah. So I feel that the question was made for me and my brand. So I think we embody the Bharat like more than anybody else, simply because any store of mine. So while one can say Big Bazaar is a national brand, but at the end of the day, the equity of the store is what counts, right? If I go to my local Big Bazaar store and I don't find the kind of rice that people eat in that region, or the kind of masalas that the people buy in the region, or the kind of say the fabrics, the blankets or the bed sheet patterns that the people in that particular region use, then I don't relate to the brand, I don't relate to the store. So we are hyperlocal in our basic essence as a brand. And for us, I think Inc. It permeates in such a strong way that even the omni-channel strategy that we've built, my e-commerce store is a hyperlocal model. So when you log on to my e-commerce store, you are tagged to the nearest Big Bazaar, which is where you get your delivery from. So whatever you see is not stuff that's there in the warehouse, but stuff that you are most familiar with in your store, getting served to you by the same people you had interacted with at the store. So that familiarity context is there even in our e-commerce play, which also allows us, therefore, to deliver anything to you, whether it is not just groceries, but everything over and above groceries, right? General merchandise, electronic items, everything within 2 hours, because it's mapped to that radius. So we've taken hyper local right down to the absolute structuring base essence of the brand, and therefore also the whole vernacular medium, speaking the language, speaking the emotion becomes extremely important for us, right? Speaking the right content, am I serving you the right food recipes, am I creating the right food recipes for the festival, the small festival that's relevant in your region, right? Do I have those stocks available for you in the store? Should you come and shop with us? Am I celebrating you on my e-commerce platform? Am I talking to you in that language, right? So we create a lot of local content, local language content, speaking to micro influencers, housewife influencers who have the strongest pull for me in my industry, who will go and create content out there in their language, in their comfort zone, talk to people, tell them about what is available, what is happening, create familiar recipes, or decoration hacks, or even the communications that we create out of the HO for the regional festivals are built on those local nuances. So for us, all of this is actually something that we've been doing, but it's becoming even more important now with content coming into play. People consuming so much more of content, right? And I consume a lot of content in the languages that I'm familiar with, where I do consume English and Hindi. But if somebody is talking to me in my language, I feel so much more relatable. I will watch, I will follow that content. And for us, that becomes even more essential as a part of our story. Gamification, again, we've been doing gamification that has helped us do a lot of couponing, but that is to that extent, it's a very simple level of gamification, I would put it. It's just quick games that you play, you win, you get a coupon, go redeem it at a store. Uh, but as the familiarity with smartphones increases, the use of technology increases, and I can see gamification being driven heavily. There are a lot of players who are getting into the bigger games. We know about the Fortnite and this integration, Nike integration, etc. Right? But also on a regular basis, how can brands gamify themselves? How do you create brand engagement, especially in a situation now where people don't really come to the store, right? Or people may not be walking in. So how do you really bring that experience onto the phone, onto your device? How do you engage with people? How do you gamify the walkthrough through a virtual store? That becomes a next level of conversation. I think that everybody will be looking and driving through this year. I'm not so sure about the other new buzzwords of NFTs and metaverse, and where they're going to take us. I think I'll just wait for a couple of years more to see where that goes. But the other parts are very relevant for our audience, I feel.
Absolutely, Aditi. I think when you speak about hyperlocal and personalization, I think Saurabh touched upon it, and the fact that like the southern part of the country reacts very differently. As someone who sits in this part of the world and has seen how brands tend to talk to all four states together at one go, I think it's quite surprising, and I'm very glad that brands are changing that journey in that sense, right? I think just throwing this question to Yogin as well, because in your case, Yogin, it's not just about Bharat and India, and then there is international markets as well, right? So, what are some of the trends that you're seeing there that you're waiting for India to catch up on, or that you're bringing into your marketing strategy in India? And of course, I think regional and content bang on in terms of how you have to throw your story to the Indian consumer.
So what happens is for us is our content is any which is Vernac. A lot of content is Vernac in other languages. So we have to go Vernac in a big way, approach audiences that way, familiarize the way they adapt the brand. But talking about Arsenal first, I'll come back to that point. But talking about Arsenal first, the way digital has evolved, the way digital has come up after Jio and everything comes up, Arsenals have upgraded themselves. From starting with, I can say, give an example of bow and arrow. Now we are at a nuke weapon. That is how we went away in last 2 years because of lockdown. The digital has evolved. Taking hyper local, taking vernacular are the ways you are engaging your customer. Because in last 2 3 years, if you go to see, touch points of users have increased rapidly. The screen time of the users have increased so much. That's the reason you are trying to reach out to the user every channel, whatever possible you can do as a marketer. So either you engage a user at one platform and make sure you take it to the final mile, or else you keep engaging so that the brand recall value tries to create over there. So Arsenal, as rightly Aditi said, like it's gonna be NFT or what, we don't know about the future, but things will evolve, and evolve. And what I agree with Saurabh in that way, he rightly said that when you're in Rome and stay in Rome that way, when you're in Delhi, you don't know a consumer in there. For us, we are a global company, and but what happens in US, we will not know. So we have to have a regional manager there where we speak with them. We see a lot of difference in the way consumer consumes the content. A consumer takes a festival in a different way as compared to an Indian going there will have a different approaches towards the life. So we have seen a massive change in the way CTV consumption happens. When you get into the data of ACR, what kind of a content they consume, what kind of an app they are on, Roku, Hulu, the game has entirely changed there. We don't see a normal cable or normal TV to be more evolved there as compared to CTV is there. The more data targeting available on a TV as well as and I have also seen digital evolved in a way on one platform programmatic. You can see digital out of home, audio ads, everything coming together. So what I see is here as a future, programmatic is gonna take entire wave out of every use, and consumer centricity will remain there. So you rather you reach out to that user via audio, via digital out of home, via CTV. This is all gonna be one ecosystem very soon. So that will help brands like retail or any other Indian brands, whether India or Bharat, you will be able to reach out to a user wherein properly your entire metrics have been followed in the right way. So I will sum up in that way, wherein I feel there is 2022 will be have a different arsenal, which will have 360-degree. All the marketers have to take a risk in that way, some other way.
Yeah. Music to my ears, Yogin, as a platform who does programmatic advertising for a living, we are excited to hear that Indian marketers too are really looking forward to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're creeping up on time, but I think there's one question that I do have to ask, given such an interesting panel, right? See, we've all spoken about mapping consumer journeys and how it's important to understand every touch point of a user. And that obviously links back to the fact that in the era of digital marketing and smartphones, this is possibly the time when we are more data rich as a brand. And I think as a brand, you can, of course, I think, boil the ocean in terms of looking at data and trying to figure out what's the best strategy. But then what's the right data strategy to use, and what level of analysis is really analysis and what makes it paralysis, right? So maybe I'll just go around the table asking for questions, starting off with Yogin, because I think you possibly touched upon the fact that, like, there are different markets. Each market has its own nuances, and then there is different content. In your case, there could be personalization, there could be marketing even within the app, and not just marketing, right? So what kind of platforms do you typically use? How do you identify the right data sets, and how do you sort of decide that this is enough for us to go ahead with an experimentation and not looking for the perfect solution?
So platforms, as I rightly highlighted, and I'm glad that one of the programmatic platform is also here. So we actually, as digital first product, we go for programmatic first approach everywhere wherever we go in our markets. And in my past careers, also I've always been a programmatic fan as a programmatic guy. So which actually helps us to decide whether the consumer has a right approach or not. And tracking 360-degree impressions on your media really helps you, like you use a tool like DCM or more than any other tool you want to use it, which actually gives you a good footprint saying that, okay, this is the particular user, this is how it has gone through. And the data gives you more insights about your consumer than anyone you said to the consumer will give you a different experience, but the digital impression gives you different impressions. So that way I've seen users have, you can say the data strategy lies with the user who is coming on your asset already. So you have to start mapping your own data, start digging down inside it, understand that if the consumer likes it or not. For us as a category, it's very important what kind of a user watches which show at what time, or probably what kind of series or genre of the shows he likes it. Accordingly, you place your ad so that user engages with that user and they actually resubscribe and regenerate that retention of the user. So every brand has a different way of looking at it, particular that way. But saying that, I think for me, programmatic has always been a hero for me. And of course, platform for ROI will be Google and Facebook overall. But any which ways, Facebook programmatic is the future, what I see into 2022 as an arsenal.
Thanks, Yogin. Saurabh, I remember you touching upon the importance of first party data, and I hear the same from Yogin, right? Maybe for the benefit of the audience, advertising is one element, but stitching together the advertising and marketing content from understanding your own first party data is very relevant, right? Especially for a brand like yours, because the the purchase values and the categories are so diverse and different. So, which are sort of the underlying platforms that you use? Like, are there any DMPs that you use, or is what is a DMP? What's a CDP? What's an analytics platform? We spoke about analytics and impression measurement briefly in terms of Yogin. What else do you really comprise? What else do you think is really important to have as a part of a MarTech stack for a brand?
Sure. What we think is that a single view of consumer is very important, right? And MarTech need to be very much intelligently need to be integrated into it, so that we just touch base the entire experience of the consumer with strong, loyalty, stickiness, and obviously the referral goes after that. The entire thought process has again been, divided into five parts. One, we talk about the data. Second, how we're going to analyze those kind of data in integration with multiple programs and channel comes into place where you talk about, all your online to offline kind of a thought where you talk about social media, you talk about, multiple MarTech's integration come into place. And then we have different platforms, as you rightly put it, in terms of, different DMPs, DSPs, how you really want to touch those, single view of a consumer. As I said, yes, being the kind of brand which is not that kind of a, as Yogin said, it's very, they map to the last mile of the consumer in terms of what kind of content they watch at what time, so that they can pitch the contextual, content to the consumer, right? And then try to achieve something out of it in terms of ROI. In our case, it's little difficult because you do not know the purchase cycle of it or the usage of the product, right? What you can do is you can just, pull those communication very subtle way of the consumer top of mind recall. And then whenever there is a need of the product, they always have that brand thought in your mind. Whenever you or someone goes out either on any of the e-commerce platform or on ground, have that thought that yeah, there is a brand who have that kind of a product and I have seen that and I rely on that, then gets converted into it, right? So that's how, how my submission would be.
Yeah, I mean, at certain points you have to make assumptions and iterate and experiment, I suppose. um, you know on the other side, Aditi, I think you are someone who possibly can map back the purchase cycle with the definite definition of when it's a user walking in, what kind of products are they buying, and all of it. That being one, but I think the other element that I want to bring in is, of course, understanding what your data strategy looks like today. And the second part being with the evolution of privacy and data regulations coming in, be it third party cookie deprecation or IDFA being mandatorily no longer being mandatory and opt in by Apple. So, how do those changes really impact the way in which you're thinking of your marketing strategy?
So I, so the for us, while the cookies and the the tracking data is important, I think what's far more important and really helps us a lot is a lot of the first party data. The the opt-ins that I get in terms of access to to be able to SMS, to be able to notify, or to be able to reach a customer through their emails. And we're finding really good traction on both the notification and the email marketing that we've been doing, especially given the fact that a lot of my outreaches are not single product outreaches. They are multi-product, multi-price point kind of outreaches that I need to inform a customer. Email notifications become quite more effective because they give me a little more bandwidth to showcase and to inform, right? So in if I think as we go along, strengthening of that data set is going to be extremely useful, and overlaying that with user journey. to see, how much of what of it is driving traction, what of it is not driving traction. So, to the question that you asked earlier, saying how do you really look at data and, data, in fact, right now there's such a flood of data in all our lives. It's very easy to, not know what to look at or, be overwhelmed by it. But I think the first question is, what do you want out of the data? If you start with that question, saying what is the objective that you're driving, and therefore what will be the data set that will give you the answer, whether it's the kind of tracking data that you want to look at, or whether you want to look at first party data, you just want to look at behavior data, or you want to look at driving a retention strategy, right? So looking at it from that point of view is what is going to help us. And like I mentioned, for us, it's more about growing the first party data and first party connections, which I think will sort of balance out the inability to be able to track.
Yeah.
And for us,
Thanks,
since it
Aditi.
is a regular usage business, I think that becomes far, far, far richer.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Aditi. I think, like Saurabh mentioned, we can speak forever on this topic because all of us have spent years in the
Yes.
industry. But yeah, in the interest of time, I will wrap up. I think we've had to skip a few questions that I would have liked to ask all of you, but I'm sure we will continue to speak in other forums, right? I think just quickly summarizing, everyone agrees that the best is yet to come. We have lots in store ahead of us. Every challenge is an opportunity. India being the way in which it is, every brand has to truly think about becoming hyperlocal and personalized to a user in terms of the journey. Brands have to think about building together a 360-degree view in terms of stitching together a consumer journey, mapping the online to offline behavior, and most importantly, in the interest of privacy becoming front and center, building a first-party data store and understanding a user is truly becoming important for every brand. I think that's what will truly make performance marketing grow in the ecosystem in the coming year. I think with that, I'll wrap up. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you Aditi, Saurabh, and Yogin for sharing valuable insights. It was really great panel and really amazing to hear from all of you in terms of the different things that you do. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. A
Thank
big
you.
thank you to all our panelists, and a special thank you to our moderator for putting in the time and helping us set this up. We'd also like to thank our sponsors and, of course, all our attendees who made this possible and made this event a success. Once again, guys, thank you for the very invigorating discussion. And with that, I think we'll take your leave. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.